Hey y'all, it's been a long time. My name's Sam,
And I'm Jen.
and our channel is Flippin' and Trippin'. We have been full time RVing for 9 months with our kids and our dog, and I do eBay reselling full time to fund that. So our channel is mainly about eBay reselling, but we also are wanting to get more into the RV side and how they kind of interact together. Um, Last time we talked, last time I had a video, we stopped doing videos for quite a long time. There were some issues that came up that were kind of an existential threat to our RV life. Mentally, physically, we were exhausted because of what happened. That's one of the things we're going to talk about. It might run a little long, so we may have to break this up into different parts. But yeah, it's been, I think, about 4 months since I did a video. I think we hadn't even gotten into Salt Lake City yet. I want to say the last video I did was in Declo,
Really?
Idaho. Yeah.
Wow, that has been a long time. Okay.
So we had wandered through Vernal, Utah, and then up into Salt Lake. We were actually staying in Salt Lake for a month because I had heard that that's like the mecca for reselling. There's a lot of really good thrift stores, Deseret Industries, Goodwill's. A lot of people like to donate stuff instead of getting rid of it there because of the culture. It's very Mormon heavily influenced. So I'm like, this is going to be great. Plus the area was supposed to be really good. Partly because of what happened and partly just for some bad luck, it ended up being as good as I thought it would be. But one of the things we had decided to do while we were there for a month was start looking at upgrading our RV setup, because we have 26-foot travel trailer. It's about 30-foot tip to tail. And we bought that before we decided we were going to go full time. So we tried to make that work, and it did work, but it was not very comfortable.
Yeah, it just, with all of the eBay inventory and everything that we had discussed in previous videos, it was just becoming a smaller living space. And which is something that we wanted to kind of see if we could do in the trailer that we were in, but it just kept getting smaller and smaller.
That and the layout too. I mean, it was a pretty standard like big U dinette slide. It wasn't the double dinette couch, and because of where the bathroom and bed set or bunk bed setup in the back was, when you're trying to open the bathroom, you're constantly cutting off those bunks, and it was a pain in the butt. Like you couldn't walk past somebody.
We did a video, so you should be able to see exactly what we were talking about.
Yeah, the tour. So that was a big problem. So we were in Salt Lake. We're like, okay, this is the best time to do this. We had a lot of hit and misses on, we were looking to do the Class A type setup. We thought that would probably be the best bet. But we were having trouble either finding ones that were going to be in our price range to pay cash for, or to get some one that was maybe more, but we could get another loan on. The credit thing wasn't an issue. It was just like either it was too old or it was too more than we wanted to finance, because it's a lot more expensive to finance an RV than it is an automobile, because it's almost like a house. You're paying all that extra interest on top. Like the longer you have the loan, the more interest you're going to be paying, unlike a car that is kind of built in. So we were looking around and we just had a lot of issues, and then I finally saw a fifth wheel that looked really nice. It was a 2013 Cougar MKS 344, I think it's called. Double living room, kitchen slides, slide in the bedroom. We talked to the kids about it, and they were okay with losing their bunks in order to have a bigger space. We did run that by them. We didn't just make that arbitrary decision. So we decided to do that. The problem with getting that fifth wheel, once we got in there and took a look at it, and we liked it. Except for one problem, which I'll talk about in a minute, is we also had to get a new truck, because I only had the F-150 towing the truck. So I needed to upgrade both things then. Okay, so luckily,
so it was a big upgrade.
Yeah.
Like our whole setup had to be upgraded.
Yeah. So luckily, when we were looking at the RV, it was on a consignment at Abish's in Salt Lake. It was raining. It started raining heavily that day, right when we got inside the RV. So we were quickly able to see that there was a leak in the front closet area, which is where the front cap is. My son went in there and hid, and then he talked, about being wet in there. So we looked at that, and we informed them about it, and they were, like, oh wow, we got to get that fixed. So we were like kind of leery about it, but I knew if it was just like a front cap issue, they should be able to just reseal it and fix that. I told them, I said, hey, if you're going to be able to get that resealed, then my son's coming in, so it may get a little loud. He's been out playing. But we're in the video right now, but sorry, we're not going to try to edit this out. That's part of life. So I went back the next day or two and I said, hey, you know, I'll just do a straight up trade with you guys. We owe about 20 grand on it, so I'll pay it off. I'll do a straight up trade with you guys if you'll go ahead and do the fix on, you know, the cap area and get that fixed. You won't have to do any warranty. We'll just take it as is long as that's fixed and the leak's done. So they said, okay, good, we'll do that. So basically we were looking at paying our RV off, our travel trailer, and then having to purchase a new truck. I traded in my truck. Got a decent amount for it. We still do have some on the truck that we're making payments on, but we were able. Once we paid the 20 grand off on the RV, we basically own the fifth wheel. Okay, so we thought everything was good. We just bought this truck. It's a 2018 F-150 or F-250. We did go gas. I did not want diesel. I don't like these new diesels. There's too many EGR or ERG problems and limp mode stuff. I just wasn't dealing with it, and it's not something we use regularly because we still have her minivan. We use that for going and getting around, so I wasn't that concerned with it. The problems happened pretty soon. Like, we ended up getting the RV the day we were leaving. We basically, we got the inspection done, we hitched up because we found it towards the end of when we were staying in Salt Lake.
Yeah, we had decided to, like you said, to go ahead and upgrade everything. So we started looking, and once we found this one, it was pretty close to the end of the month in Salt Lake, and so it was like, okay, can we get these repairs done? Can we get this done? Can we get that done? And everything seemed to be kind of going a line the way that we needed it to go. So we're like, okay, we could do this, we can move this, we can pack up that and move in. And so we thought everything was going to be just a smooth run out of there.
Yeah, the truck was, I wanted that specific truck because I liked that gas engine that was in there. I think it's the 8.3, or I can't remember now. It had 100,000 miles on it, which that's not bad for those engines. You know, you can get up to 200 easy. You just got to maintain them. So I wasn't too concerned. But besides the truck and having to pay off the trailer, I did put some, you know, we paid that off. We traded in the truck, got a loan for the rest of the amount on the truck. I did have to pay about $2,000, I think, to put the fifth wheel setup in the truck. We actually went with the, what's it called? Oh, I can't even remember the name of the setup right now. With the fifth wheel hitch setup, we decided to go with, why can I not remember what it's called?
I don't know.
Gooseneck.
There you go.
We went the gooseneck setup, and they had to do the install under the bed, so that had to be taken off and stuff. It was another $2,000 or so. So the day we leave, we're like, okay, this is great. You know, I'm a little leery because I haven't driven something quite this heavy and big before. But we were on our way to Durango. We were staying Durango, Colorado. We were staying there for 4 or 5 days before we headed to Albuquerque for a balloon fiesta. So we had a 2-day drive down to Durango. On the first day, my wife calls me in the van.
I call him what had looked like a white sheet, like somebody's bed sheet, was just flapping on top of the RV. And so I called him and I said, hey, did you like hit something that was in the road? Because I think it got caught up in the RV. It's just
not like, realizing what that was.
I had no idea. And he said, is it white? And I was like, yeah, it's like a whitish color. And he goes, no, that's our roof. So problem number one. Then so after freaking out for a minute on the phone, we decided there's nothing you can do. You're literally driving down the road.
Yeah, there's nowhere. Like, we were in that area. I don't know if you can look at a map between Salt Lake and where we were going to stay at in Green River. There was nothing. I mean, there was no way I could just pull over and we could try to do a fix or something.
What are you going to do? You can't make it stay down. I mean, you could probably duct tape it. I wouldn't recommend that. But anyway, so there's nothing we could do. We could just pray that there's going to be no rain and get to where we're getting to.
what had ended up happening, we did stop, and my daughter got up on the roof, which she got a lot of experience of that before this was over. It had actually stopped at the first skylight in the bedroom, and then also the antenna area. So it was just kind of holding right there. There were some rips in it beyond that, but luckily that caught it and stopped it from moving. So we were able, she took a couple pictures of it. We got to Green River, and that's when I contacted Bish's and explained the situation. And this is what I don't understand, because there's a big metal strip in the front where the cap meets the roof, and if that roof membrane was under there and sealed, I don't think that should have been able to come off. It looked like it could have possibly ripped, but I didn't. Whenever we actually got in there and did the repair to fix it, there wasn't like anything underneath it I could see that would have been like, for some reason, it ripped. So we're like, what the heck happened here? So we contacted them. They finally got back to me once we did get to Durango, and said, hey, we can do two things. You can either get some 2x4s and you can screw them into the plywood, put the membrane back down, screw them into the plywood of your roof, and then you could drive it all the way back up here. And I'm like, no, that's not going to work. We got to, we're trying to get to Albuquerque for a Balloon Fiesta. Luckily, we had already set our reservations for the first part of Balloon Fiesta, which comes into play here in a little bit. They said the other option is we can send you a new roof membrane, or at least, that part where it'll overlap. We can send you all the sealant and glue and stuff that you need to do the repair. We'll try to get it overnighted to you, and then we'll give you some money for your time. And they ended up giving us some extra money because we ended up staying 3 or 4 extra days because we had to wait for the stuff to come in and do the repairs. So I said, okay, let's go with that option. I said, never done something like this before, but we'll go ahead and do an RV roof repair.
Thank you, YouTube videos.
Yes. Gotta love YouTube.
Yeah.
So it took an extra day or two to get the stuff, but then when we finally got it, me and my wife, my daughter, my 16-year-old daughter, thank you so much, Emma, she got up on the roof and was doing it because, I'm a pretty big guy, and I was worried that I was going to sink through that roof. So I was up there on the ladder the entire time with her, and she did a lot of the stuff that I couldn't reach up in the middle part of the roof, laying down the glue, hitting the rubber, putting the rubber membrane and stuff. But what we found out is there was some kind of weird, under the part that had come loose, there was some kind of weird, like, latex coating on that part of the roof. It was only that part of the roof, but it was probably 10 or 12 feet from front to back. And then there's like maybe a foot in front of that before it hit the front metal cap, or the front strip that holds it down. And it would not hold glue. It was I don't know what it was, but I still to this day, like, I contacted Bish and they said they weren't sure. The only thing I could possibly think of was maybe it was something they put on there to like level out the roof or make the curve right so there wasn't any dimples, but it looked okay. But what we ended up having to do is we had to manually, me and my daughter, go in there and just scrape it off with putty knives, get it all off, and it was a pain in the butt. It took us a full day just to get that off, because I think that's what happened is they glued it down and the glue didn't hold, so it's just sitting there. Once the wind was able to catch a little bit and get underneath it, because it wasn't glued down right, that's when it came off. So that kind of paid to the mystery of what happened. But we're like, we're not going to do this again. We took it off, and then we glued everything down, laid the new strip back where the other old part overlapped the old roof, and then put a new strip down, resealed everything. And my daughter did most of that work. It was a pain in the butt trying to stand up on a ladder all day, and helping her as I could, and I did the stripping on the sides and stuff. But we had it done in 2 days, so we're good to go.
Thank you to the RV park in Durango for letting us extend our stay a little bit so that we could get all that done.
Yeah.
And for
Alpenrose RV Park.
There you go.
Yeah.
And having suggestions for the people who were there and have dealt with a few of those things. Yeah,
because we called a couple techs in the area, and they wanted too much, and some of them couldn't even give us good estimates. Some were out because this was like late September. Some weren't even in the area, so that didn't work out. But we got the repair done, and it was a beautiful park. Like, if we were going to get stuck somewhere for extra days,
yeah,
we definitely want to go back to that park. It was right there outside Durango, like in between the cliffs and mountains, and it was just a beautiful park.
I'm sure it wasn't ideal for them for us to be up there fixing it constantly and having some supplies, and so we just appreciate that.
Yeah, but there's kids there. My son got to play with some kids. You know, it was just a beautiful park. We were, you know, if we were going to get stuck somewhere, that was fine. So we got the repairs then, and then we're like, okay, let's get to Albuquerque. And that's where everything went really wrong really quickly.
So we got up that morning, we packed up just like we always do, and decided to head out. Going through parts of New Mexico. We have never been through parts of New Mexico. Driving down, we hit a very tiny, very small town, Cuba, New Mexico.
Well, we didn't hit it. We didn't even make it to it. We stopped.
We were right outside.
We stopped at an Indian reservation gas station and filled up.
Okay.
I started having problems with the truck. I had an engine light pop up. It started making a clattering noise, and I really should have pulled over. But I'm like, okay, I got to get to Cuba, because honestly, guys, one of my fears of RVing that I did not want to happen was being stuck in the middle of nowhere with my RV and my family in a desert area with no way to get in contact with the people we needed to, and having to worry about what we were doing with our rig to get somewhere safe. That happened. So I'm like, I just want to at least make it to this town Cuba. Maybe this town Cuba's got what we need and we'll just be safe and, you know, everything there. Nope, didn't make it.
So right outside.
About 3 miles.
I am following in the minivan, and thank you that we have the minivan. That has saved our life. Sam pulls over, and I'm like, okay, what now? Because, you know, we just fixed the roof, so maybe I don't see something's happening. No, the truck just stops. And he luckily gets far enough over to pull over on the side of the road that he gets out, and he's like, okay, the truck just stopped.
I got as far as I could, but it still wasn't perfect, because like I had to make split-second decisions because the truck shut down. I said, okay, I had to get over and try to find a safe spot where I was going to be able to get something done. We ended up being 3 or 4 miles, I think, outside of Cuba.
Yes, which,
in the desert,
if you don't know, is a couple of hours away from Santa Fe, which is where our next stop was going to be.
Yeah, and this leads into something that's going to happen. Like we had our reservation in Santa Fe. You'd be like, well, the Balloon Fiesta is in Albuquerque. Well, we did it early enough, but we still could not find a spot in Albuquerque. So we ended up staying in Santa Fe. That was where our initial reservation was at, because you couldn't find anything in Albuquerque.
Which we understand. It was Balloon Fiesta. We knew that would be hard, and we didn't mind taking that drive.
Yeah.
Because we were only supposed to be there for 3 or 4 days.
We were staying in there for 3 days before we were going to head west and do the Grand Canyon and all that stuff. Okay. So I get on the phone with our with Progressive's roadside assistance. Oh my God, I don't ever want to have to deal with them again.
I do not recommend.
Yeah.
I still don't recommend.
Hey, because I always forget this. We're putting this in the video at some point. Jen's going to take care of the editing. She's my editor. Please like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. How come I'm going to look like that? Please like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. It does help us. We're trying to build this channel. Don't play with the beard on camera. So there's still, customer service where I'm going to try to put this nicely. It makes it really hard for them to understand, especially when you try to tell them that you're in a truck towing a fifth wheel with a gooseneck hitch on it. They don't know what that means. Okay, they were able to finally set up the tow for the truck, which they had to come from Rio Rancho. Cuba's right here. Albuquerque, Rio Rancho's here, and then Albuquerque's right below it. Santa Fe's up here, and there's mountains in between, the Jemez Mountains, okay? There's no road that goes, like, crossways here. You have to go all the way up to Los Alamos and then come back around to Santa Fe. So the closest place is Rio Rancho, about an hour and a half away, I think it was. So that's where they ended up getting a tow truck from. Okay, so where we were at. So we're going to get the tow set up for Rio Rancho. The problem was they couldn't understand what we needed for the fifth wheel. And there was, some communication issues. So they finally, after not really understanding, were able to get us over to some kind of special department for like special towing or something. So we got to speak to somebody here in the States who understood what we were driving and what we needed. So she went through and was able to find a company, and she gave us the name and stuff and said they were going to be coming out. She's like, I wanted to make sure you were, until we had this completely taken care of, she took our credit card information, because literally, like, there's nothing here. They'll only tow a certain distance, and you have to pay for the rest. So we had to shell out. They were going to say the bill for us was like almost $900 to our credit card, and she took our credit card information. So we think this is all done, She finally gets off the phone with us, and then we get another 1 or 2 callbacks, because we'd called and talked to other departments, and then the people who called us back on there started the whole thing over again. Like, hey, are you guys safe? What exactly is it you need? I'm like, we explained this to everybody. It was one of those situations you just don't want to deal with, especially when you're out in the middle of nowhere.
That, and explaining it 3 or 4 times, and then it's like, oh, well, I'm going to cancel this. And it's like, don't touch anything. Don't cancel. They're like, oh, no, we're not going to cancel what you have set up. We're going to cancel this. And then it just turned into people upon people doing and canceling when we had already set up and explained everything to the one special agent
that we thought had gotten
everything set up. So then after all those phone calls, we were like, okay, we're a little worried that something got canceled or something didn't go through or whatever. So we started calling who we thought the special agent had called and set everything up with.
Yeah, it was a different company than the one from the truck.
Yeah. They called and said, no, they denied the thing, so we're not coming out. And so we're like, okay.
They said it was because they said the insurance company denied it, is what they said.
Because they weren't in network with the insurance company.
We found that out later when we went through the whole process again. We still were not able to get in contact with that same person, the specialist.
Even when we called back and it was like, no, just put us back with the person that we were talking to. Yeah. And it's like, they still couldn't do that for us.
It was just, my blood pressure is just continuing to rise and rise, because I've got my family out here stuck in the middle of nowhere.
So we get the truck towed to Cuba in the mechanic. Yeah. That's fine. But we need our actual RV towed.
Okay. The thing, let's back up a little bit. The company was on their way to get the RV. I called them because they were in Rio Rancho.
Yeah.
I already knew they'd already been in contact with us. I said, hey, here's our issue. Can you tow our fifth wheel too? And they said, sure. I explained the situation to them, and even without the insurance being involved, they gave me a rate of, it was around $900 out of pocket to tow us all the way, come out from Rio Rancho to Cuba, New Mexico, tow our fifth wheel all the way to Santa Fe, to the place we had the reservation. Because remember, we couldn't get anything closer. It was during Balloon Fiesta, and Cuba, New Mexico had a little RV park that they had a couple of RV spots at a salon of all places with, I think, water and electricity, but no sewer or something. I can't even remember.
No, I don't think she even had spots there. I want to say I had called and they still didn't have spots there.
So we had to go to our original place.
And we even asked the mechanics, like, hey, do you know, because a lot of them know RV parks because they have the capacity to tow RVs. So they're like, okay, let me check with, I want to say she was checking with some other RV parks, and she said, no, there was nothing around there.
Yeah.
So then we still had to keep the reservation that we had in Santa Fe because, as far as we knew, that was the closest
we could get into. Luckily, we had cell reception at least. But so the tow truck company was on their way to pick up the truck, and they were actually going to take it to a mechanic in Cuba, because that's what the insurance company was willing to pay for. They were going to tow the truck all the way to Rio Rancho. So we contacted them. We were able to get a tow for the fifth wheel. So we ended up waiting, I think, about another hour after they picked up the truck and dropped it off in Cuba, to where they got the fifth wheel, and then they drove it all the way to Santa Fe. Luckily, we had the van. Like, my wife was able to go get McDonald's and get us some drinks and stuff while we were out there. This is why it's a good idea to have a second vehicle. I know it's a pain in the butt for some things, but it's good to have. So we get towed in. I think it had just hit dark whenever they towed us into the RV park, and we're completely exhausted. Don't know what's going to happen with the truck.
Yeah, because the mechanic when they got it towed to the mechanic, he was closing.
Yeah.
So they even had to leave the keys inside the little key thing.
Yeah.
And he knew it was coming, but they were closing. So it's like we had no answers for the night. So we just got set up the best we could in the RV park after we got towed, and was like, tomorrow's a new day. We'll start new from there.
We stayed at Hapico RV Park in Santa Fe. I did want to give a shout out to them. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It takes like 15 minutes to get into town, but it was probably the park itself wasn't great, but they had really clean bathrooms and all full hookups. But there was no like amenities or anything. They didn't even have laundry there. But the park setting was beautiful. It was nice not to finally hear like cars and trucks driving by. It was the first time we'd kind of been out in the middle of nowhere, other than Durango partly. But it was a good RV park to be stuck for what ended up being around a month.
Yeah. So, in hindsight, it took around a month to get everything figured out, and for the truck to get fixed, which I guess we'll go into what happened with the truck and why we had to stay in Santa Fe for a month.
Yeah. I think we'll probably end the video here. It's pretty long, and we'll do a second video and explain how everything went down with the truck, what happened after we broke down.